Am I too loud?
Nope, just fine. Just fine.
Okay, thank you.
This meeting is being recorded and/or transcribed.
Hello.
I would have had this back when I was still working. I might have worked a few more years.
Yeah, pretty convenient.
That's not the word I would use.
Oh. Okay, I think we have all of our folks here. So I would like to call to order this August 3rd meeting of the Cass County Human Services Board at 2:01 p.m. according to my clock. Madam Secretary, will you please take roll?
Mr. Breitling?
Here.
Mr. Ellingsberg?
Here.
Mr. Hagan? Mr. Pollock?
Here.
Mr. Peterson?
Here.
Ms. Sherling?
Here.
Mr. Steen?
Here.
Ms. Ferguson?
Here. Also joining us today is Robert Wilson, County Administrator, and Mr. Hagan did call in and excuse himself from the meeting today. So our next item of business is approval for minutes for the July 6th meeting. Do I have a motion regarding the minutes?
Rick to second.
All those approved, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So as you'll notice today, we did not have a long and robust agenda, and I gave everybody a break from talking about the composition of the zone board. So we will move right into our operations report today. So I would start just with some personnel. We had 5 new economic assistance workers today. We'd had some turnover as well as some retirements that occurred over the last couple of months, and so we had a nice roster of candidates and were able to fill a number of positions, and so we look forward to taking those new individuals through their training processes and getting them acclimated to what we do here, and giving some of our seasoned economic assistance workers a break with their caseloads because they've been covering a lot as we've had some vacancies. We also have a couple other positions that are just in the works. We're filling out a social worker 3 in case management, a part-time position, and then a couple of other full-time positions in case management. So we're getting close to rounding out our team here. Any questions regarding personnel?
The question that I would have would be, how does this hire and retirement policy or process compare with what we went through last year, if you can?
Do you mean like the number of individuals leaving?
That sort of thing, yes.
And the type of turnover, whether it's voluntary or involuntary?
That's correct.
You know what, I actually have similar questions, and Marla, my administrative support manager, and I have assessed some pockets of turnover in the organization, but I haven't historically gone back to Cindy Stoik and said, during X period of time, what was our turnover? And that's something that I can do, and then we'll be able to benchmark our turnover and really look at whether things are voluntary or involuntary going forward. So hasn't been done yet, can be done, on my list of things to do.
Or a third category would be retirement.
Oh, yep. Sorry, I just consider those to be some of your voluntary turnovers. People are choosing to leave the organization. But yeah, we've had a number of retirements too, actually, this year. Off the top of my head, 4 that I can think of since I've been here. So, and most of those individuals with 20 or more years of service to the county. So that's a big deal when you lose that many years of service and that collective knowledge and experience. So, anything else personnel-wise the board would like to discuss today?
This is Commissioner Breitling again. My understanding is that a substantial percentage of your staff will no longer be eligible for step increases. Has that had an impact? Have you had any feedback on that with your staff?
So this is what I understand for right now. The state did not approve annual raises in 2020 for any human service zone member across the state. So people who would have normally gotten that regular raise did not this year. They do have plans to do those next year, like unto they've done in the past. I don't know how steps comes into play with that, because the state has talked about doing something like a percentage rate, and those percentage rates don't align with our county steps. So I'm going to need further clarity really from the state as to what that's going to look like. And that's about what I know. I have had staff members ask me about raises, and I've been able to share, whatever information that I had at the time. I just share very openly. The other part that some staff members have come to is that because the county pay schedule changed between 2019 and 2020, that the initial wage that we bring in new employees in is higher than the initial wage that we brought people in 2019. And because people did not get a raise in 2020, it appears that new employees are being hired at a starting base wage that is higher than 2019. And the only reason now why that's obvious is because people hired in 2019, especially at the end of 2019, didn't get a raise. So there appears to be a discrepancy in payment, how all the processes and practices used to determine an individual's starting wage are all in alignment with how it's been done in the past. So I think that's caused some frustration on the part of employees, and I've just tried to be really clear that that nothing discretionary has changed, that it really, we're following the same processes and the same practices, and the reality of the situation is that because the state didn't give raises in 2020, it has made a gap that unfortunately we as a county don't have control over. So it took me a long time to put all those pieces together.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I have a couple of questions. You still have folks working remotely?
Yes. We
How are you doing that? How's it working? And just, in scheduling appointments as well. Could you just touch on how that's going?
Yeah, so things are going well. Our adult services team, which is a team of 4, is predominantly working from home, but a lot of their work, like 80% of their work, typically is in the field anyways. So they have remote capabilities, and they're working in the office when they need to come in and do office-related things, and they're working in the field or from home when they can do that. And that's been going well. The intake unit, which is a team of 3, has been working remotely, but they rotate, and so we have one individual in the office to take care of any appointments that might be coming in, but the other two are answering calls and doing all of their work remotely, and so that team rotates. In family services, we have, I know Linda gave a number, approximately 35 family service workers commute, and so they come to the office when they need to do all those hard copy or those tangible tasks like copying and printing and faxing and scanning, if they have any court appearances that they need to make, if they need to come in for family team meetings or other appointments, they do that. And they also have a rotating crew of individuals to make sure that they always have like one of each discipline here and available for impromptu meetings. And then they schedule both all of their client meetings, either in the community, and we track those, or they schedule their clients to come in and meet with them here, whatever is most appropriate. And in the economic assistance division, we have, again, about 50% or about 35 of those staff are working remotely. And so the same process, they set their appointments with clients and meet with people when they need to in person. It's gone really well. A couple months ago, I created a survey about telecommuting, just to see what was going well and what wasn't going well for staff. And I got about 70 responses from our staff, and I built a summary PowerPoint, which I would be happy to share with this group after this meeting, so you could look at some of those things. But staff are reporting that things are going well. There are general comments about missing some interaction, and it's complicated to have to go back and forth to do simple things like printing and scanning, which you would just walk out of your office to do. But there's also a lot of comments about less disruption to work processes, and obviously the appreciation of, for those individuals who used to telecommute an hour one way, appreciating that quick telecommute from the bedroom to their home office. And then, so overall, culturally, I think that's going well. And then just if you look statistically across like our operations statistics, we're not having, there's no telltale signs of work not getting done. So our productivity has remained high, our operations statistics, the number of applications we're receiving and processing, and all of these things demonstrate that it continues to go well from an operational standpoint. However, I know Robert and Terry from the county side and me all need to discuss what long-term telecommuting looks like for members of the Human Service Zone. The state has used COVID-19 kind of as a springboard into how they're going to change how state employees work. And so they're even going as far as terminating leases on some state buildings, setting people up permanently to work from home, having what they call hoteling, where people can come and go kind of based on their roles and responsibilities. And that was rolled out to zone directors in our last meeting by Sarah Stolt. But obviously those are for state employees, and we house a few in our zone, but there was never a conversation that that would also apply to Human Service Zone staff. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of changes with our state counterparts in terms of telecommuting permanently and where they're located. So.
Okay, thanks. And then just one other question I have here. When I look at the statistical report that you put out, it surprises me, and maybe I'm misinterpreting this, that there hasn't really been a lot of change in economic assistance yet at this point. And I'm thinking that, relative to the pandemic and, unemployment, which, people are getting unemployment and the federal assistance, so perhaps that's why it's not being reflected here. But I also noticed that child protective cases are down. So, are we missing some? Do you expect then that once school opens up, are we going to be able to make sure that nobody's slipping through the cracks, or have you had conversations on the state level about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so first in terms of economic assistance, Sydney and I have continued to watch these numbers, and where you see the biggest fluctuation in terms of economic assistance is the number of applications that are coming through electronically, which was just an indicator that people were doing more business, over their computers than they were in person. But we also had commented in several of our meetings how it was interesting that those numbers didn't rise or fall, particularly rise, in conjunction with what we anticipated. And the speculation there was maybe that $600 unemployment benefit, which is now gone, was something that had kind of been like a safety net for some of those individuals who now we're seeing another increase in the number of economic assistance applications. And Sydney anticipates that will continue to rise because that unemployment benefit is gone. So, obviously those are speculations. Did that provide enough to keep people out of the system? And now that it's going away, what kind of changes will we see in the volume of applications that we get for economic assistance? So I think statistically August will be a telling month in terms of what those look like. So that addresses that. For the CPS assignments or the CPS cases, they did drop, which we have talked to people in the state, zone directors across the state, and they noticed similar things. And so the conversation was really centered around children are spending less time with mandatory reporters because they're not in daycare and they're not in summer school and they're not in school and they're not doing after school activities. Pardon me. And so really not knowing what the makeup of school is going to look like, how many kids are going to attend things virtually or 2 days a week and 3 days a week, or be completely remote or completely in school, I think will, whatever that kind of ends up for our school districts, will kind of determine what our reporting mechanisms look like, our numbers look like in the future. So that we in particular or internally have asked that question, that if children aren't in close proximity to mandatory reporters, what else could be done to ensure they aren't falling through the cracks? So that is a good question.
So this is Ken Pollock. I have a question.
Sure.
Do you think that the opening will reduce the need for additional office space or temper the demand for it? Is that something that works as a solution to our overcrowding problem?
I think that it definitely could. Yeah. I'd be hesitant to move people out permanently until we had some really structured definitions around like, how do you manage people that telecommute? Do you have a whole team that telecommutes? Does part of your team not? Does part of your team, are they physically there? How do you assess performance? How do you hold team meetings? So I think those are a lot of things that need to happen. In terms of the state staff vacating our offices, we've had 2 that have gone thus far. And up until recently, the state was asking us to just maintain that physical space for them because they thought maybe they would be sending people back. So if our long-term care staff left, which they have, and all of the offices of the home and community-based staff, if they all were to work remotely, that would open up like another probably 10 or 12 offices for us on the 4th floor. But HCBS hasn't got the go-ahead to move home permanently from the state. So
Okay. I'm a little confused by the reference to the state employees. If they're not state employees, what are they? Are they Cascade employees?
Well, from my perspective, there are a few individuals who used to be that are human service zone staff who are Cass County employees, and there are human service zone staff who are state employees. So when the state took over the processes of like home and community-based services, all of those staff got new nd.gov email addresses. They report to a state supervisor or manager, but they are housed locally in the zones. And so that's the same too with child care licensing staff and a couple of long-term care, and that's within economic assistance staff. So to the best of my understanding, they are all state employees. The rest of the staff members that work in Cass County, to me, are human service zone staff, and we function under the state's merit system for things like salary, progressive discipline, and whatever, but we're still Cass County employees. That's my perspective.
It would be helpful for me if there were some sort of a flow chart that made those identifications, because it's just a little hard for me to follow.
Sure.
You too, probably.
It definitely was in the beginning. I was like, wait, why do they stay here? But they're state employees. But what's going on? But we already keep organizational charts, and really, it's probably a matter of just going back to those historical ones and delineating like this group of individuals used to work here, and now they work for the state, and we maintain those. And then we maintain, obviously, our own internal organizational charts with our reporting structures in them as well. Excuse me. So I did not have any really additional updates for intake or APS. Their numbers continue to be, pretty consistent with the number of cases that they've been taking on a monthly basis. Again, those units now report to me, so we're figuring out how to work together. And I already shared my additional comment for economic assistance. I was going to just give provide a few updates from kind of an administrative standpoint. So I had mentioned the Human Service Zone Plan, and that was something that was due on June 1st. The state was supposed to have those back to zone directors with recommended changes in the month of July, and they're behind schedule. So when that gets sent back to me, I will finalize it and then share it with board members, so you know what's on the zone plan. And then I'm going to gather an update of the status of some of our redesign projects. I think because we kind of halted everything for COVID, and now various state departments are trying to get their 21-24 initiatives back up and running. I think that would be helpful for this group to understand some of the additional obligations and demands that are being placed on the staff as we do things like process management for economic assistance. And the state is rolling out what is called the practice model. And so it's a model of practice around child welfare that's aimed at providing continuity through like child protective services and case management and in-home services. So that's going to provide some additional guidance for how we provide child welfare as an agency, and the agencies across the state provide child welfare. And then the state is hiring a director of zone operations. I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but they have, Sarah Stolt informed us that they have narrowed that down and that they'll be doing their interviews in the next couple of weeks. And so it appears that that will be someone that zone directors will have a reporting relationship with in conjunction with the Human Services Board. And I have been informed that one of their first initiatives is to develop and deliver zone board training. So apparently that's going to be coming down the pipeline. And those were, oh, and another thing that I thought that I would do in relation to our zone board meeting is I'm going to attend a few other zone board meetings that occur over the course of August and just see if there's some elements that would be beneficial to add to our standard routine agenda to just make our meeting more meaningful and provide a little more information. So I wanted to make sure that I got that done this month as well.
So sometime during today's meeting, I'm hoping you'll touch a little bit on the caseload leveling that you described in the report.
Oh. Let me get to exactly what I got here.
Working with both Trail to the north end and...
Oh, yes. Okay. So there's two elements when we talk about economic assistance caseloads. Obviously, historically, they've been high in our county because we have a county with a large population. So I know that's not a secret. We've also had some discrepancies in our caseload levels because we've had staff turning over, and so people have had to carry even higher caseloads. So this caseload leveling that is being referred to is that when we have a vacancy, any human service zone, when they have a vacancy, we are expected, when requesting to refill that position with the state, that we reach out to our fellow zones and that we ask if anyone there has the capacity to support some of the work that we do. And so as we've had this number of vacancies within economic assistance, I've reached out to the group of zone directors and said, hey, we have a vacancy. Can anybody take any cases anywhere? And so there have been a number of zones who have reached out, and sometimes they can take 100 cases and sometimes they can take 25. It's kind of based on their capacity, since many other zones have quite a lot fewer economic or eligibility workers that we do have. So that basically is just a collaborative effort between the zones. And then I think what the state's vision is that eventually when we talk about caseload leveling is that they have this process that they call process management. And from my perspective, and I haven't been really educated on it yet, we're supposed to have an upcoming meeting, is that it starts to treat applications kind of like an assembly line. So instead of one person having 400 cases for which they're responsible from beginning to end, you would have eligibility workers anywhere across the state who specialize in doing this portion or this portion. And so you kind of almost put them on an assembly line. When you've done your bit, it gets moved on to another person who specializes in this, and then whoever has the capacity, whether it's internally in your organization or regionally or across the state, and that's what I'm not sure it's going to look like, is that people would just be dealing with portions of applications, and so it would be much more efficient than having to know, 3 or 4 or 5 different economic assistance processes from start to finish. You would just work on this piece. And so that's how, to my understanding, they've talked about this case leveling idea, because nobody would really have a number of cases anymore. They would specialize in a specific process within the cases. So we were supposed to have a meeting on July 22nd, and the state pushed it back. And I know that's been it's a point of interest, I think, for many zone directors, as we talk about how we deal with our economic assistance processes and workflows and applications, and ensure timely management of those people's benefits and applications. So I'm interested to see what that looks like, because I think it will benefit our organization in terms of the discrepancy between like our seasoned caseworkers and our newer caseworkers who carry loads. We might have someone in economic assistance who's been here for 10 years and they carry a caseload of 400. And yeah, you don't touch every single case every single day, but that's still a large number. And if you have someone who's been here for 6 months that has 20 or 25 and they're just finishing their probationary period, that's pretty tough to carry 400 versus 25. So it will be interesting to see how it rolls out. I know there's some hesitation and concern that maybe clients won't be treated so much like a whole person because of the kind of dismantling of their application. And so I think not only internally just at Cass County, but across the state, there are individuals that have a concern that the customer service element of economic assistance might go away when you have people only dealing with partial applications instead of assisting an individual or a group of individuals to get the benefits that they need. So that will be something that we'll have to balance when that time comes for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments or recommendations for things we could add to future agendas? I'm always open to finding and sharing information if it will benefit this group, especially in their advisory and advocacy capacities,
Hey, Pearl, this is Chad.
Yeah.
In the past, we've talked about maybe alternate hours. I know you've been busy. We've all been really busy, but I'd be curious to find out what your thoughts are, not in this meeting, but sometime in the next 2 or 3, 10 meetings to figure out if we can get more flexible hours for our clients. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting. All right. That's really all that I have for reporting out. But again, I'm always open to answering any questions that this group might have, and again, open to suggestions for future points of discussion. So all right.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm sorry if you're not ready.
no.
I said
Perfect. I was just going to ask for adjourn, so you're on top of it.
Peterson, second.
All right. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned at 2:34.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.